Amine Vadaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshitarine. So I said, not qualified to discuss or glorify this great devotee, but I'd like to seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Krishna Balaram, Gopal, Gonitai, the Guru Parampara. So we can say a few words about this great personality. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was the Guru Maharaj of Srila Prabhupada. So during the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's stay on this planet, the pure religion of Vaishnavism taught by the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was essentially lost and had come to be considered to be a degrading standard of simply a sex religion, or at best a cult of religious fanaticism and sentimentalism. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very sad in his heart to see that this situation, and he had a desire to present the actual teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he wrote and published many books in Bengali, Sanskrit, and English, which presented to the world, to the people of Bharat, specifically the real teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his genuine followers. He traveled to many parts of Bharat, preaching and giving lectures to many people whose hearts became changed by seeing his pure character and shining example. So he practically single-handedly revived the pure movement of Nam Sankirtan, which is the congregation chanting of the holy names of God. And he presented the glories of Lord Chaitanya to all learned men in the world. However, so that this preaching of Nam Sankirtan could go on nicely, even after Bhaktivinoda Thakur left this world, he prayed to Lord Chaitanya to send him an assistant. He called him a ray of Vishnu and a successor from the Lord's personal staff of preachers. So answering the prayer to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a son was born to him on February the 6th, 1874. It was the 5th day after the full moon in that year. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was serving as a government magistrate in the holy city of Jagannath Puri in Orissa. So Bhaktisiddhanta is actually born in Jagannath Puri. He was named Bimal Prasad. Bimal Prasad means he who has been received as the mercy of Bimla Devi, who is the internal potency of Jagannath, manifested as a form of Durga. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually prayed to Bimla Devi, and so that's why he was called Bimal Prasad, the mercy of Bimla Devi. Through various signs, the Lord showed that Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his good wife, that this was a great soul that had been sent by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to carry on the preaching work that Bhaktivinoda Thakur had started. And it was witnessed by all present that when the child came out of the womb, his umbilical cord was wrapped around him like the sacred thread worn by Brahmins, and everyone was very amazed by this sign. And then 6 months later was Jagannath Rath Yatra, and at that time the cart was being pulled by hundreds of people, and it came to stop in front of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house was on the road which the procession took place. The cart actually wouldn't move. It stayed there for 2 days. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's wife, she actually took the baby, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, to the cart on the second day, because she thought, give the opportunity for the child to have darshan of Jagannath. And because she was the wife of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was the manager of the Jagannath temple, everyone respected her, and she was allowed in the cart for darshan of the Lord. She placed the child at lotus feet of Jagannath deity, and immediately one of the huge flower garlands hanging around the neck of the Lord fell down and encircled the child. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's heart was filled with joy, for he knew beyond all doubt that this child was the answer to his prayers. Actually, when his horoscope was looked at, there was so many great signs in there saying that, he would be a great preacher and he would be firm in his conviction, things like that. So again, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was really pleased by those predictions as well. As the boy grew up, Bhaktivinoda Thakur instructed him in the science of Krishna consciousness. At the age of only 7, Vimal Prasad Datta, that's his surname, who was later to be known as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, had memorized all 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita and could explain each one. He was very strict and disciplined with himself. So when he was about 4 years old, he took an unoffered mango from the room of the family deity and ate it. Bhaktivinoda Thakur just mildly chastised him for it upon catching him and told him that it was not proper Vaishnava behavior to eat food that had not first been offered to the Lord. So this is him, and this is the family. So he's the 4th son in the family. So Bimla Prasad, taking his father's words very seriously, made a vow to Bhaktivinoda Thakur that he would never eat a mango again. So throughout his whole life, he kept this vow very faithfully. Whenever someone would offer him a mango, he would say, "No, I cannot take it because I'm a great offender." At the age of 10 in 1885, while attending the Serampur Missionary School, he was initiated by Thakur into the Harinam mantra and the Nrsinga Dev mantra. And in school, he invented a novel kind of phonetic alphabet, which he called Bikranti or Bikanto. Later on, he attended a special Sanskrit classes. Due to his lifelong celibacy, he had such a great clear memory that even in his last days, he could reproduce word for word any passage of any book he had read 50 years back. Actually, what happened was one day, he was arguing with his professor in school. I think he was about 13, and his professor told him to leave the school. And he was really happy because he thought if he did finish his education, then, his parents would marry him off. So now he could say that, listen, I have not completed my education, so I'm not qualified to support anyone, so I shouldn't really get married, which is what he really wanted. He did not want to marry at all. And in 1888, when Bimla Prasad was only 15, he had been awarded the title Srila Siddhanta Saraswati by his tutors in recognition of his proficiency and natural talent in understanding both Eastern and Western systems of astrology. At some point in his youth, he also adopted the name Sri Vrishabhanavi Dayate Das, the servant of the lover of Srimati Radharani, the daughter of Vrishabhanu. So this is him as a student in the early 1890s. In 1892, Siddhanta Saraswati entered into the Sanskrit College in Calcutta College, where he became expert in the Sanskrit grammar, Vedic Shastra, and the different ways of philosophy. At college, he also read all the books in the library and read private studies into the higher mathematics, international history, and philosophy and Vedic astronomy. At that time, Siddhanta Saraswati attended a cultural association in Calcutta called August Assembly, in which the study of various philosophical and theological topics was conducted. He was such a powerful debater that no one's argument could stand up against his vast erudition and scholarship. And I think it was said that there was one scholar there who thought he was the best debater, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati defeated him so much that he actually passed urine and stool sitting on the stage there. In 1895, Siddhanta Saraswati took a job with the royal family of Tripura, which was then an independent state. He was engaged as an associate editor of the royal family's history, Raj Ratnakar. While there, he had the opportunity to study the major works held in the royal library. When the Maharaj Virachandra left this world on the 11th of December 1896, his son Radha Kishore Manikya Bahadur was placed on the throne. And the new Maharaj engaged Siddhanta Saraswati as a Sanskrit and Bengali tutor for the Crown Prince Rajendra Kishore. When he wished to permanently leave the employment of the royal family in 1905, Maharaj gave him a full pension equal to the salary which he had been earning. And Saraswati Thakur gave up this pension in 1908. Also at the age of 23, in the year 1897, Siddhanta Saraswati opened a school in Kolkata, which he calls Saraswati Chatushpati. It was here that he began teaching Vedic astronomy. Many prominent and scholarly Kolkata gentlemen were among his students. At this time, he also edited 2 monthly journals, the Jyotirvid and the Brihaspati, and published several authoritative documents on Vedic astronomy, such as the Surya Siddhanta and the Bhakti Bhavana Panjika, which he had written himself. In 1895, Siddhanta Saraswati was attending the meetings of Thakur's Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha in Kolkata. In 1899, he was editing and writing for a weekly cultural magazine, The Nivedan. In 1900, he wrote and published a book on the society and different religious sects in Bengal called the Bange Samajikata. Right. So this is him writing, editing an article in the 1930s. And in 1901, Thakur received Siddhanta Saraswati, requested Siddhanta Saraswati to accept a spiritual master and become initiated in the Gayatri Mantra. So the Thakur had one very beloved associate, Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, a very renowned Vaishnava saint of Navadvip, who regarded the Thakur as a Siksha Guru. It was he who the Thakur requested his son to take initiation from. Siddhanta Saraswati approached Babaji for getting initiated, but Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, who hadn't any disciples out of his infinite humbleness, refused to accept such an erudite Pandit as Siddhanta Saraswati when he himself could not even write his own name. So Gaur Kishore Das Babaji was uneducated, so he thought that he could not accept such a scholarly person as his disciple. So disappointed, Siddhanta Saraswati went back to his father, related to him what had happened. But Thakur sent him out again, and again Siddhanta Saraswati came back with the same news. So this time, Thakur told his son, unless you take initiation from Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, your life is useless and no longer may you enter this house. Siddhanta Saraswati then set off with great determination, and meeting Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji on a bridge along the road, told him that he would jump off the bridge and kill himself if Babaji did not accept him as a disciple. He said to Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, my father has told me that human life is worthless without a spiritual master. So if you refuse to accept me as your disciple, I must kill myself. Upon hearing that and seeing the young man's sincerity of purpose, Babaji accepted him as his only disciple, adding Bhakti to his name. So now his name was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. From that year, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur traveled with Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his pilgrimage to all the principal holy places in Bharat. On January 2nd, 1902, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur engaged in a debate on the beginning of a new year on the basis of the sun's precession with an accomplished student of Vapudev Shastri, Rai Bahadur Rajendra Chandra Shastri, who was the president of the Royal Society, presided over the debate in which Bhaktisiddhanta so badly defeated his opponent that let his professor pass urine in the assembly out of shock. And during this time, he compiled a Vaishnava encyclopedia named Vaishnava Manjusa, He was staying in Puri, where he began to publicly preach the holy precepts of Srimad Bhagavatam. He would be uncompromising in his preaching, which sometimes brought about controversy, especially Raman Charan, and the Thakur advised him to go to Mayapur for some time. Thereafter, he traveled extensively. He traveled to East Bengal, and he also went to the southern provinces of Bharat, lecturing, preaching, writing, debating, fully absorbed in the fire of propagating the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Before actually he started all his preaching and traveling, he spent a few years, I think it was said about 10 years, in just chanting 192 rounds every day to prepare for the preaching. And then in the south, he traveled to places such as Simhachalan, Madras, Tirupati, Kanchipuram, and many other places of pilgrimage. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, during his vow to chant 1 billion names of Krishna, this is in Mayapur, 1905. His strong preaching gave him such a reputation that his very name would strike terror into the hearts of his philosophical adversaries. The perverted and immoral so-called religious activities of different nonsense cults and sects were doomed forever in the presence of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That's why he was also called the Lion Guru, the Simha Guru, because he was so strong and ferocious in his preaching. In 1905, in Yogpit, Mayapur, he also undertook a vow to chant 1 billion holy names of the Lord. That's 300,000 names, which he accomplished over a period of 9 years. And he chanted on beads given to him by Thakur, who had himself used the same beads to also chant 1 billion names. And then in 1911, at an All India Conference of Pandits at Midnapur, which was presided over by Pandit Vishram Paramadev Goswami, Bhaktisiddhanta, taking the place of the Thakur, who was ill at that time, lectured to an astounded audience on the comparative position of a Brahman and a Vaishnav. After the discourse, all the people came forward to offer him respect and touch his lotus feet. The president of the conference called him the other self of Srila Sukdev Goswami. The lecture was subsequently published as a book in Bengali. In 1913, he established the Bhagavad Press in South Kolkata, which was later moved to Mayapur and then to Krishnanagar, where he began to publish his many carefully edited books. Altogether, he published, edited, and wrote about 61 works, as well as 8 different journals. Okay. Once, when he was asked how it was possible to publish a journal every month just about God, he replied that here in this world, there are thousands of newspapers and magazines reporting the state, repetitious happenings of this limited space. So for reporting the news of the unlimited spiritual realm concerning the eternal, ever-fresh Supreme Personality of Godhead, we could publish a magazine every second, what to speak of monthly. Bhaktisiddhanta made special studies of the Vaishnava literature of South Bharat and the first to introduce the Bengali translations of the works of Madhvacharya Sampradaya to the public in Bengal. We always stress the importance of publishing and distributing Vaishnava literature as a means of educating the mass of ignorant humanity. In order to facilitate the printing of books and journals, he established 4 printing presses. One was the Gaudiya Printing Works in Kolkata, 1923, the Nadia Prakash Printing Works in Mayapur, 1928, the Bhagavad Press in Krishnanagar, 1914, and the Paramarthi Printing Works at Cuttack in 1936. He called these presses big madangas, or brihad madangas, clay drums used for large congregations singing groups, because the sound that they would produce would be heard all over Bharat. In 1914, in the disappearance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur from this mortal world, the task to carry on the movement of Sri Chaitanya now lay in the hands of Bhaktisiddhanta. He took over as the editor of Thakur's journal, the Sajan Toshni, monthly Vaishnava paper in Bengali. Later on in 1927, he converted into an English fortnightly, which was called The Harmonist. On 17th of November 1915, on Uttan Ekadashi, Srila Gokishodas Babaji entered into his eternal pastimes. Saraswati Thakur performed his last rites according to the prescriptions of Gopal Bhatt Samskar Dipika, establishing the Samadhi of his Guru. On 7th of March 1918, on the occasion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day, Bhaktisiddhanta took Vedanti sannyas in Sri Mayapur in front of a picture of Gokishodas Babaji due to the lack of any advanced Vaishnavas. Although as an eternally perfected soul, he had already achieved the goals of the renounced order, and he took this step in order to preach the gospel of Lord Chaitanya everywhere without restriction. So this is him taking sannyas. On the same day, he established his first Vaishnava monastery, Sri Chaitanya Math. Sri Chaitanya Math became the headquarters of the branch of the Gaudiya Maths throughout the world, the flagship of which is situated in Kolkata. Later that year, one important figure in a popular religious organization met Bhaktisiddhanta, who was so impressed by his power of purity that he immediately begged to become a disciple. He would arrange for Bhaktisiddhanta's transportation between Mayapur and Kolkata. He rented him a small house for him in Kolkata for expanding the preaching of Sri Chaitanya's teachings. The house became known as Bhaktivinoda Angan and was later known as Sri Gaudiya Math when it was later moved to a large marble building in the Bagh Bazaar of North Kolkata in 1930. Bhaktisiddhanta then in quick succession, after that, spread his Gaudiya mission to every part of Bharat, attracting thousands of disciples to the banners of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At the time of his passing from this world, he had opened 64 Gaudiya Maths for the propagation of spiritual life and Bhagavad philosophy. And in many of these maths, he established the worship of the Arch Vigraha, or the deity, in lines with the principles set out in Sanatan Goswami Sri Hari Bhakti Vilas. One time, a very important gentleman approached Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and said that your Gaudiya Math is so nice, you should open up temples in all cities of the world. And Bhaktisiddhanta replied, my real business is to establish temples in everyone's hearts. He was such a powerful and bold preacher, became known as the Lion Guru. Sometimes on walks in the early morning, he would come across some big Mayavadi sannyasis and would physically grab him and shake him while verbally chastising him. Thereafter, whenever any Mayavadi saw him coming, they would flee in fear of him. One time, a big impersonalist Vedanta society in Calcutta invited him to a debate on the condition that he could not use Srimad Bhagavatam as scriptural evidence. So he agreed to go to that debate. Then after a short time, they called him again and said he could not speak on Mahabharata, Ramayana, or any of the Puranas or Pancharatnas. He also agreed to come on those conditions. Then they called him and said that he could not use as evidence any of the Vedas, Upanishads, or Smriti texts, but could speak only for the Vedanta Sutras. So he agreed to that also. Then they called him up and said that he could not come at all. So you can see just how powerful his preaching was, that they were just scared. From the years 1919 to 1929, he was constantly traveling all over Bharat, lecturing to crowds of thousands, debating, destroying various bogus religious sects, performing parikram with his disciples to different sacred sites, seeking to improve and preserve them. During these travels, they installed footprints of Lord Chaitanya in 108 places, but the Lord had traveled during his sannyas leela. At those spots, he also recorded the date where Sri Chaitanya had been there. In 1919, Bhaktisiddhanta completed his preaching tour over North and East Bengal. 1920, he toured most extensively in East Bengal. In 1920, he also toured the provinces of Bihar, Orissa, establishing temples in some of those places. In 1922, he visited Vrindavan, place of Lord Krishna's pastimes. On this Braj Mandal Parikram, he went with hundreds of his disciples, gave lectures at all the major temples and places of the Lord's pastimes. And in 1922, Abhay Charan, who was Bhakti Vedanta, Srila Prabhupada met Bhaktisiddhanta, and this changed the course of his life. So basically, a close friend of Srila Prabhupada, Narendranath Mulik, insisted he come and meet a sadhu from Mayapur. And initially, Srila Prabhupada was reluctant to go. There were so many bogus sadhus, and Srila Prabhupada had a very bad experience with them. But his friend insisted. Together, they entered the ashram, while sitting with his back very straight. They found Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, a studious-looking man wearing sannyas robes and small round spectacles. Srila Prabhupada and his friend both bowed down on the floor before him. While the two young men were still rising and preparing to sit, Bhaktisiddhanta immediately said to them, "You educated young men, why don't you preach the message of Krishna all over the world?" Srila Prabhupada could hardly believe what he'd just heard. They had not even exchanged any words, yet the sadhu was telling them what they should do. He asked him, "But who will hear your message so long as we are a dependent country? First, India must become independent. How can we spread in Bharatiya culture if we are under British rule?" So Bhaktisiddhanta replied in a quiet, deep voice, "The message of Krishna cannot wait for a change in Indian politics. It is not dependent on who rules. The teachings of Bhagavad Gita are so important, so exclusively important that it cannot wait." Walking away from the ashram, Narendranath asked the boy, "What is your impression? What do you think of this sadhu?" Srila Prabhupada replied, "The message of Bhagavad Gita is in the hands of a very expert person." Srila Prabhupada accepted Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Srila Prabhupada as a spiritual master immediately. In 1933, he took formal initiation from him. So this is a picture of him Prabhupada taking initiation from Bhaktisiddhanta. In 1925, Bhaktisiddhanta, along with a large group of disciples, went on an extensive tour of Bengal. On this Gaur Mandal Parikram, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta visited all the holy places connected with the pastime of Sri Chaitanya. In 1926, he toured some places in Assam. His tours during the years 1926-28 marked a very important place in the Gaudiya movement of Sri Chaitanya and the history of Bharat as well. He brought about changes and improvements in various ways in all the sacred places, as well as he brought about a new spiritual insight into the minds and lives of many followers of different religious sects, and brought them all under the banners of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement. Whenever Bhaktisiddhanta would go, he was received as a savior, religious reviver, and prophet by all who came in contact with him. In most states, he was received as an honored state guest. Many places he was presented with public addresses of reception. From 1928 to 29, he again traveled to places from Assam to Punjab. During these tours, he gathered a large number of authentic manuscripts of ancient Vaishnava writings, which he started publishing, but it was left unfinished. All these tours were highly successful, but were not without their problems. Because many of Bhaktisiddhanta's disciples, although initiated as Brahmins and sannyasis, were not born in Brahmin families, along the way while traveling, the so-called Brahmin shopkeepers would close their shops and refuse to sell provisions to Bhaktisiddhanta and his disciples. Bhaktisiddhanta will always preach very strongly against the incorrect philosophy of this proud and arrogant caste Brahmins. He always emphasized the needlessness of material qualification to receive spiritual life. Anyone, regardless of caste, sex, nationality, past background, etc., who was sincere to have spiritual life, he would give it to them. These caste Brahmins were very much in an uproar about his turning those not born in Brahmin families into Brahmins better than them. The Nityananda Vamsas especially plotted to assassinate him. They went to the local police magistrate to bribe him so he wouldn't apprehend them after the murder. But the police magistrate told them that although he usually accepts bribes, he would not be connected with the killing of a sadhu. The police magistrate then immediately informed Bhaktisiddhanta. In this way, Srila Saraswati Thakur's life was saved. 1930 and 31, a new kind of spiritual education was exhibited for the benefit of the public and especially illiterate masses. Bhaktisiddhanta demonstrated the import and teachings of the Vedic literature by means of huge exhibitions in which pictorial representations by means of dioramas and dolls in lifelike manner were employed. These wonderful exhibitions attracted thousands of people. One was the property of the Calcutta Gaudiya Math in 1930. In 1931, on Calcutta Corporation grounds. The exhibitions would draw at least 100,000 visitors daily during a month. And in 1933, eager to spread Lord Chaitanya's message beyond the borders of Bharat, Bhaktisiddhanta sent some of his sannyas disciples to England to preach and open up Gaudiya Maths in the West, but not largely able to convince the Westerners to take up spiritual life to return back to Bharat. So these are two of his sannyas devotees. Bon Maharaj was there, and there were two German disciples who came back to Bharat with Bon Maharaj. And we have Srila Prabhupada here. Fortunately for us and for the benefit of people of the world, Bhaktisiddhanta's dear disciple, His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, carried out his Guru Maharaj's order and has spread Lord Chaitanya's Nam Sankirtan movement to every corner of the globe, and is now being assisted by thousands of disciples in his preaching work. Bhaktisiddhanta was so glad to reveal the transcendental glories of Lord Krishna that whenever he found an eager listener, he would go on speaking, not knowing the bounds of time and space. Disregarding the requests of his medical advisors, up to the last moment, he continued to deliver the message of the Supreme Lord to all people. This was the only purpose of his divine appearance in this world. He did not appear here by being forced by the laws of nature as an ordinary living being appears. He worked until the last moment of his life without any reservation, disregarding physical pleasure, comfort, or relief to himself. His whole life was absorbed in a mood of loving devotion to the Lord. He was fully devoted to the propagation of the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The noble example of his life and conduct, his powerful speeches and numerous publications are evidence to this fact. In 1936, he was residing in Jagannath Puri, and on 31st of December 1936, at the age of 62, he left this mortal world, again re-entered the loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna and the sweetness of Brajtam, the spiritual atmosphere. This is Bhaktisiddhanta, his disciples, performing Nam Sankirtan outside Bhaktivinoda Ashram in Kolkata in 1930. Another picture of his disciples. Again, this is some of some prominent guests.
Yeah. Yeah. Enjoy.
Again, he met very revered people as well, some English people as well. He also met the governor of Bengal, John Anderson, at the Gaudiya Math headquarters. This is him towards the end of his life. So his legacy, so he founded 64 maths, he has 60,000 disciples, he left so many instructions. What he, some of his innovations were Siksha Parampara. It was not just Diksha, but also Siksha. He gave Brahmin initiation to non-Brahmins. He used everything in the service of the Lord, and he sent devotees overseas preaching. He gave Vaishnava sannyas. As you can see, he used this car for the service of the Lord. I think this is Prabhupada meeting him with one of his sons. Bhaktisiddhanta's instructions regarding fault finding. So he would say, let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemies. Be indifferent to bizarre gossips. Stick firmly to your cherished goals. No lack or impediments of the world will ever stand in your way. Look within. Amend yourself rather than pry into the frailties of others. The Lord Gaurasundar puts his devotees in various difficulties and associations test their patience and strength of mind. Success depends on their good fortune. When faults in others misguide and delude you, have patience, introspect, find faults in yourself, know that others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself.
Sorry. Oh, instructions. My God, she's going through this. Okay. In this world of Maya, averse to the Lord, full of trials and tribulations, only patience, humility, respect for others are our friends for Hari Bhajan. Actually, his instructions are huge. And that's a seminar on its own. And maybe we can do that next time, because it takes little time to go through these, and also it's worth going through them, because I was just saying, the instructions, it'll take some time to go through. Oh, it's a seminar on its own.
All right. Okay.
So we can do that maybe next time.
Yeah. Okay. And just one thing, in Krishna Lila, he was actually Nayan Manjari. So that's what that is his original position in the spiritual world. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj ki jai. Any questions? There's a lot.
Yeah. Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Mataji. It was nice you reading today. Really enjoyed it. Because I started late, I came on late. I mean, and then as you was reading, I said, I'm not going to disturb you because right, it was nice to hear.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, the only thing was because I started late, I just want to know who
is he? Who is it?
Who he was.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
The Hare Krishna movement. It's his Guru Maharaj.
Oh, his Guru Maharaj
is Bhaktisiddhanta.
Oh, all right.
So if we go back to where is it? That last one of those pictures that we just dig it out.
Yeah, I saw last picture.
Yeah, with his son. Yeah.
With his son, yeah.
Yeah. So that, yeah. Yeah, but it's Srila Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj.
All right. And you, at present, you told us all how he was from his birth date.
Yes.
And age 13, he didn't finish his school. And he left the school. And then
yeah.
And it's always, when they come like sadhus, it's from inside.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And he was sent by Radha and Krishna. So he was a special soul, you know. As I said, he's a manjari in Krishna Lila.
Krishna Lila, yeah. Yeah, very nice today. Very nice. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Extremely sort of exemplary person, isn't he?
Of course. Yeah.
Oh my God. So proud. I think he was anti-ladies, I think. From his posture, we can make out that he's such a disciplined man, no women around him, nothing around him, celibacy right from the day one.
Correct.
Extremely strict person, he sounds like. And it's, yeah. And so intelligent, you cannot imagine how intelligent, what a clever man he was. And I wish only he had children, and they would have they would have been like him. So clever, maybe.
No, I think his purpose was different. So
purpose was different. Yeah, only was devotion to Krishna.
Correct. Yeah, he just wanted to, because Lord Chaitanya's message was not being passed. So that's what his main purpose was, to just get that message going again and spread the Harinam Sankirtan all over the world.
I don't think we can find any other strong line guru like him.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I suppose Krishna's arrangement, Prabhupada was sent by him, obviously, to carry out the mission.
Yes.
And Prabhupada did a grand job. If you think about it, I think without Prabhupada, we wouldn't be here.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And this message that Bhaktisiddhanta, you know, this movement he started would have not been spread all over the world. I think it would maybe just have stayed in Bharat, I think, initially anyway.
But a bit surprised that his movement, his mutt, and after he left, they had a bit of somebody to look after, like a commission, and it all fell apart, isn't it? And then
Initially, yes. There was so much infighting.
yes,
Everyone wanted to take control. So now, if you look at the Gaudiya Math now, it is split. There are several little different parts to it. They're all, they're not all following the same. They have separate gurus. Have the Saraswati Math or the Chaitanya Math like that. But
yes.
But yeah, they all still follow Bhaktisiddhanta's teachings.
And our Prabhupada has done so well in that, isn't he?
He has.
He has held together everybody.
Yeah. Not only that, Prabhupada also allowed women to serve.
Yes.
He also brought Radha and Krishna, because if you look at the Gaudiya Math, I think most of their worship is of Chaitanya. Radha and Krishna didn't really appear so much. They were not prominent. But brought that also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a major change, isn't it?
Well, I suppose that helped the world, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from Bengal, not many people were aware of his existence. So I think Radha Krishna were brought by Prabhupada, and that I think it flourished in the name of Mahamantra, and obviously it helped to I suppose people like us. Otherwise we would have known Radha Krishna, but not so glorified. And Prabhupada did that magical thing.
Correct. Yeah, he brought everything together for us, actually. Yeah. So true. Even like Sitaram and things like that, now you see them in a lot of ISKCON temples. But if you look Gaudiya Math, I don't think you'll find any Gaudiya Math with Sitaram deities.
Is there only one Gaudiya Math temple in London?
There's two. There's one in East London and one in West London by Heathrow Airport.
By West, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. But such I bow down to his personality, his intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's right. Yeah. And he empowered Srila Prabhupada so much, because just that one instruction, Prabhupada, it just instilled the faith in Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada followed his example as well, with the books and everything, because Bhaktisiddhanta also, he used to love writing and, producing books and journals, and which Srila Prabhupada also carried on.
Just one question, Mataji or Prabhuji.
Hmm.
He sort of enlisted Srila Prabhupada to spread the movement. So why did he start his own movement of these different mutts? Or he started it before Srila Prabhupada, isn't it?
Yes, it was before.
Before, yes.
It was before, yeah. A long time before, yeah.
Long time before, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because Prabhupada helped in the Kolkata mutt as well. So it was before Prabhupada's time, before Prabhupada's even initiated.
Oh, yes, yeah, that's what, yeah. Okay.
Great, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Very nice.
Saraswati Thakur ki jai.